Hey everybody, welcome to The Warp. I'm Jack Rita, and this is the third video that is showcasing the flares for the unpublished aliens that would have been part of Expansion 8 Cosmic Universe. So we're going to just dive in, and I'll do a little refresher on some of these aliens as we get into it. But we're going to start with an alien called Behemoth. It's a green alert alien. So this is an alien where if a main player, you're a main player, there are ships that are allied on either side, you use this power in the reveal phase, and all the ships on your side will kind of count double their value, and all the opposing ships will count half their normal value. So that is how the Behemoth alien works, and the flare. The wild is when you place ships on a planet, any other players with colonies already there must move one of their ships to another colony where they have at least one ship, otherwise sending it to the warp. So that can be a nuisance for sure, that other players are going to have to start planning ahead and thinking about. And then we have Behemoth Super. You can use your power of scale as an ally. So this is only normally a main player thing, but now if you are an ally, this formula here is going to hold true. So pretty powerful alien, and the flare makes it even more useful. Moving on, we have Attacker. So Attacker is this alien that can attack with non-encounter cards. So when you're a main player, you may select any non-encounter card in your hand as an encounter card during planning. And if you reveal one and your opponent reveals an attack card, use this power to win the encounter. So you just win against an attack. But if you reveal a non-encounter card and your opponent reveals anything other than an attack card, you lose the encounter. So this is a little mind game alien. So they can basically almost always attack, unless all they have are negotiates. And so it's kind of a different take on a Warhawk, but I like how this plays out. So for the flare, when you're a main player, if you and your opponent both reveal negotiate cards, you may treat yours as an attack 8. So an attack, 8, everybody who is really familiar with Cosmic Encounter will know that 8's the most common one, but there may be other things that are looking for an attack 8 to happen. And then the super is if you do not have to provide compensation when you win the encounter after using your power, because that is a thing that you have to do. You're turning the other player's attack card into negotiate when you win with a non-encounter card. So here it's insult and injury combined. So I like flares that kind of amp up the punishment. So that is the attacker flare. Next we have elitist, and remember this was a Bill Martinson alien that almost was part of Cosmic Dominion. And I really enjoyed it. It's got this ridiculously poetic language in here, when thou art neither a main player nor an ally. So it's an alien that's going to get rewards for basically avoiding being involved. And so for the wilds here, thou mayest play this flare upon the onset of any engagement. If thou speakest not to other creatures this engagement, upon the end of the engagement mayest thou receive rewards up to the number of creatures involved in said engagement. So there's a little bit of interpretation here, but basically, if you just sit it out and you don't talk, you're going to get rewards equal to the number of players who were in that encounter. And then the super is when your main player, after alliances are formed, if thou didst invite no allies, thou mayest draw up to 4 cards from the deck. So that is for going it alone as a main player. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward, a lot of fun, silly language, but whimsy is definitely part of the hallmark of Cosmic Encounter. Next we have Xenomorph. This is when it copies the other player's opponent's card here. So here we've got the Xenomorph alien, and they emulate. So when they're a main player, if they have a colony in the opposing main player system, or they have one in yours, you may call out Morph, and when the encounter cards are revealed, your card is considered the same as the one your opponent reveals. And so, yeah, it's a nice way where you can kind of do some tea leaves there, and if like we've got a ship advantage here, especially if like, oh look, Behemoth is our ally or whatnot. But yeah, then you don't have to worry about Keeps the encounters close. Reinforcement's really important. So the flare is as an ally. If either main player reveals a morph card, you may exchange it for an encounter card from your hand. The encounter continues with your replacement. So it's a nice way to just get a morph, even if it means your side's going to lose. But yeah, it's if either main player wants, so you can usually screw things up for the other side. And here with the super, you can call it morph after encounter cards are revealed, which is very powerful. So that's nice. It's nice to see some powerful flares come in there. I like the fact that there is no balance in the flares. Some wilds are really powerful, some are very weak, and some supers, same deal. I think that's good. Energy, and remember, this is the craziest alien ever that could have been published. It doesn't have ships. It uses attack cards as ships, and so not going to go through all that, but that's the gist there. So when you are targeted by a card effect that sends one or more of your ships to the warp, you may substitute cards from your hand for some or all of the ships, discarding them. So it's a nice way to avoid, like a ship zap and some other flare effects that would get rid of your ships, and it lets you maybe do some hand management. And then the super here is during your regroups, you may trade a card from your hand for one of your cards on a planet instead of simply placing a card on a planet. So sometimes you have to put some cards down just to have some presence, and you may be like, it was a good card. Maybe that's a 20. And sure, that colony now is going to be pretty safe because it basically is 20 ships, but maybe you're like, I'd like to have that 20 to help me win an encounter. So with this flare, you've got some flexibility now. All right, now we have Attorney, and this is going into all the rest of these are going to be deck aliens. So let's spread these out so that we can find the ones we're looking for. So as a deck alien, remember they start the game with their own cards on their. This actually is not a deck alien. It has a deck alien thing because I have the wrong icon on here. This is actually an essence alien. So if we look over here, the attorney has contracts and that they use. So the way their alien works is at the start of each player's turn, you can give them a contract from your cache of essence card. And when players with contracts are involved in a deal, they may honor the terms of the contract as part of the deal. If they do not, you may gain a colony in the system of the player not honoring their contract. So as an example, if you give them the little base contract, both main players must gain a foreign colony with only one of their ships on it. And if the deal is honored, both main players are incentivized. They can get 2 cards from the cosmic deck. So there's some carrot and some stick here. So looking at the flare, when 2 other players are making a deal, you may draw 2 flares at random from the flare deck. Gaining one of these flares may be part of the deal. If it is, you gain the unchosen flare. So, yeah, you're just kind of throwing that out there. You're like, hey, why don't we put these out there? If you guys can agree on who gets one of those flares, I'll get the other one. So that's kind of a fun thing, although you are, giving the other players something. The super here is when 2 players are in a deal situation, you may give one of them one of the contracts in your cache, replacing the contract they already have if necessary. So maybe you're like, oh, they're not going to go for this. Well, maybe they'd go for that instead. And so that is how the super works. So next up we have Profiteer. So this is a deck alien. So they have special attacks and morphs. And so anytime a player loses an encounter, you can give them one of the cards on in your private stack here. And anytime another player revealed one of your Profiteer encounter cards and won the encounter, you can gain 3 rewards, or you can add that card to your hand instead of it being discarded. And so if we look over here, Profiteer, so an attack 42, an attack 32, and a 22. Now these are not just a 42. Here's if you lose the encounter after revealing this, your ships are removed from the game. So the stakes are a little bit higher, but you should be able to win the encounter with an attack 42. And there's some special morphs as well. So it copies your opponent's card, and if that card is an attack, add 2 for each home colony you have. So all of these are nice to have. So the Profiteer has got to let somebody else, use them, but you're going to get something out of it as well. So with the Flare, if you have allied with more ships than the main player on your side, gain 1 reward for each ship you had in the encounter, in addition to normal rewards. This is a very powerful wild flare. And the first time you use it, everyone needs to remember that you have it, because it's going to really benefit you. So you, yeah, and we've seen this wielded very interestingly. And the super is when you reveal a negotiate card in an encounter, you may add one of your profiteer cards to your hand or search the discard pile for up to 2 of your cards to add to your sheet, so to keep the cycle going. So yeah, there you go. Next up, we have Negotiator. So this is sort of the companion to the Attacker, but this is a deck alien. So Negotiator has a bunch of special negotiates on their sheet, and whenever no negotiates are revealed in encounter, you can give one of the main players a negotiate from the card, from your sheet. Anytime a deal is made between any 2 players, doesn't matter if it's with your negotiates or not, but you're going to gain a reward. And you may place any negotiates in your hand onto the sheet at any time. And so, again, just to kind of peek at the negotiator, here, if opposed by an attack 9 or higher, you lose, but you collect compensation. And if opposed by an attack 8 or less, players have, it forces a deal situation. So they may have, they play a low attack card, you're going to get into a deal situation rather than just losing and collecting compensation. So these are all, unusual negotiates. So with the flare here, as a main player, if both players reveal attack cards, you may transform both attack cards into negotiate cards if your opponent agrees to entering a deal situation. So sometimes it's better to be in a deal situation. And this is a nice thing that you can offer. You can say, hey, look, why don't we not worry about it? And they're like, oh, I can't make a deal. And he's like, don't worry. We can make a deal. And we can make it a good deal. The super, when you're making a deal, you may grant or receive up to 2 colonies, give cards from the deck, or give 1 random flare from the flare deck. If the deal fails, your opponent loses 2 more ships than normal, and you lose 2 ships fewer than normal. So yeah, this really makes you into a top-notch negotiator. You're making just amazing deals. And yikes. Next we have the Devourer. So this is an alien that it's got a bunch of cards for various decks, and it shuffles them into those decks, and when they're drawn, terrible things happen, but good things for the Devourer. So yeah, you got all sorts of incentives there. So the Devour Flare, reveal your hand if you only have 1 card of any particular type, and then you can discard any or all of your cards. So yeah, you're just devouring your hand and maybe getting a new one. And then the super is when you devour something, devour 1 more of that thing. So yeah, let's just take a quick look at these Devour cards. So this is a Destiny one, so you are going to devour any one ship of the player who drew it. And if the Devourer draws this card, they're going to devour 2 ships belonging to any player. But with the Super Flare, you're doing 2 more of those. This one's in the Cosmic deck, so when this comes up, somebody draws this, they reveal it immediately, and the Devourer is going to devour 2 cards at random from their hand, or 3 if the Devourer draws this. So you see how these things work, and there's cards for a few different decks that you would actually draw from in the course of the game. So yeah, you're devouring 1 more of that thing. So yeah, that's pretty bad for most people. We'll get to that. All right, Armorer. This is the one that has special reinforcements. So as a main player or ally, you may use this power once per encounter to send 2 of your ships to the warp and either play a reinforcement from the sheet or take a reinforcement played by another player, canceling it and putting it on this sheet. And so, yeah, once per encounter. And then after any encounter where you were not a main player or ally and no reinforcements were played, you must give any other player 1 of the reinforcements from this sheet. So you're going to be kind of, keeping the reinforcement game alive. And these reinforcements, as you can imagine, there's some crazy ones in here, +9, and no rewards or compensation is collected. So, yeah, it's crazy. So the Armorer Flare. You may move a reinforcement plate on one side to the other side. That's a big deal. That could be a big swing right there. And then the super is you may use your power to forge twice in one encounter. So that you might be playing 2 reinforcements from the sheet. So there you have that. And then our last one is Zip. So the Zip alien has a few special artifacts, cosmic zips, cosmic zap, card zap, and a cosmic zop. And these are going to be popping in and out of the game. And so the wild zip is play at the start of a player's turn to force that player, other than the zip, to turn their alien sheet face down for the rest of the encounter. So it's a preemptive cosmic zap is really what this is. And then you're going to be giving this flare to the zip if they're in the game. And then the supers, you only need to send one ship to the warp to cancel an artifact given to you. So that's one of the things, is that when you play some of these artifacts, other players are going to be getting these artifacts. And when they play them, you can cancel them by sacrificing ships. And so that's what's nice about that. You've got you're not completely vulnerable to your own artifacts. And here it's making it a little bit cheaper for you to do that. So there you have it. Those are now all the flares, all the videos that cover all the flares for the various aliens that might have been published. And as I've said in all of these Cosmic Universe videos, if you would love to see this expansion, I very much would. It was three things. One was a huge box that was designed to contain everything Cosmic Encounter, the base game, and all 8 expansions. Organize it, help you to set up and clean up. The second thing was a bunch of new aliens, including all these deck aliens. And then the third was the special systems, 42 special systems. Send your letters to Fantasy Flight, begging them to do it, and certainly feel free to suggest that they just crowdfund it. That way it's no risk for them, and they can do the whole thing with the temporary art. This is all just temporary art, and then they can say final art will be, blah, blah, blah. And then, if the campaign doesn't do well, then they were smart in not deciding to publish it. But if it does do well, then it helps prove that there is an audience for yet another Cosmic Encounter expansion, which I would love to see. I always wanted them to do at least 9 expansions, because that's what Eon did. They did 9. Sure, many of them were much, much smaller than the ones that Fantasy Flight did, but it's the principle of the thing. So that's it for this one, everyone. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.